So there's a ton of noise online when it comes to how you use AI, and it's really exhausting. So in today's video, I just want to walk you through some really simple ways that I've been using AI in client projects today that just kind of take it from this really basic AI designs and kind of elevate the designs a little bit more premium. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into it. So on my screen here, I recently had a client project, or I'm currently in the process of one where we just want to bring in some user delight into our project, right? Like very subtle ways of doing it. That was a request from them. And so in the past, that was a really challenging thing to do sometimes with time constraints, with, just a skill set of not being an animator, of the level of effort that an engineer would have to do to implement things. So I've been playing around with creating a design in Figma and then just taking it straight over to Figma Make and playing around with some of the animations because it's gotten to the point where it's actually pretty decent now. And so, for an example, I think I've only done 10 little things, but I basically created a frame in Figma, right? Like for this one, I just created a location services. I made sure that I created these with like SVGs. They kind of have their own individual elements that can be animated. And so for this one, I made sure I went in and named this layer to be location indicator so I can tell Figma Make what layer to animate. And so then if I go back to this location indicator, and we go back up to the top of my make, I just said, can you make the layer name location indicator fall in from the top? And so we went through and we did that, right? And I can't see the preview. I told it how to do that. And then I said, great, once it hits the bottom, can you then make these dashed circles just fade in? And we prompted a little bit more. I said, okay, let's double the time, worked a little bit on it. And then after they finish that third step, I want them to then grow by 10% and shrink back to normal. And so with this, I'm being very like meticulous, one step at a time, because if you do it all at once, the output is going to be really garbage and it gets lost. And so you think of it like training a very junior designer or an intern, like tell it very specific steps, be very intentional, small, short, one thing at a time, as if you were assembling something. So this is kind of the output that we got to here. So I'll refresh it, it loads. Right, we have the pulse there that comes in. If we load it again, you'll see being dropped in, pulse, right? So there's a little subtlety to it. And so that's just like a nice little way of adding in some user delight into the experience. So next example here is a very similar thing, very similar animation effect. But this one, I grabbed a frame and I just told it to make the transparent lines move up and down across the ID card and do it in a loop over 5 seconds. And obviously I went through and refined it. And I told these to change in time. And so then that feels really nice. So we could just copy and paste and integrate that into a project as a loading state that otherwise would just be a standard. So that has been a really simple way of doing that. And then I'll show you another example of one of the ways that I've been doing it with a client project here. And so another example that I really enjoy that lets you play around with kind of the feeling of how something might feel in the product. I worked with this client that had an AI messenger, or an AI that a user would talk to and text back and forth with. And then when they got in the app, they'd be able to see like what the updates from this AI agent. And so I wanted to see what kind of the cadence would be and the feeling would be to be able to communicate to the engineer like what the typing speed would be, how they interact with it. So I basically just gave the Figma Make a prompt after copying and pasting again the same thing we did previously. And I said I wanted to create a double text message window essentially to be able to type into the first message and the second message what this AI agent's going to animate, and then click animate, and it'll type those out. And so that way I can test how it feels, the speed of it, the way it looks, how big it looks when it gets smaller or taller, and then be able to say, hey, send this to the engineer. Let's make it do this speed here. And so they can go in and kind of see all of those things. So if we go in and animate this, they're like, that feels pretty good. And it deletes. And so that has been a simple way that I've also been doing that, which has also kind of led me to kind of like the last piece here. And then so the last piece here is this has allowed me to go in and create for like portfolios or for just showcasing my work online, these cool animated kind of like bento grids type of things that I've been able to create and then export as GIFs. And so with this, I've been able to go in like with Figma Make and do this little, piece that we just showed here, been able to do some interactive moving around of a different map view, show some images on how a screen would load, and then be able to export this whole thing and be able to do this as a showcase online, which is really, really cool and capture some attention. So that's some super simple ways that I've been leveraging AI. Not super, super deep on maybe the strategy and technical side of things, but I think this is really good at helping to create a feeling and a um, overall experience that the clients come back and they love and they remember, because you're kind of digging into those details, which previously would have been so much time and energy and effort, and it would have taken a whole huge team of people to do. So hopefully you learned some practical things from this video. I've been really, really enjoying getting into this stuff lately. So made it to the end of the video. Appreciate you being here. Hit the like and subscribe button. We'll see you next week.